our wall. Now if you remember, we put in these pieces here, these laminated 2x6s, because we have cast iron pots hanging on the other side of this wall because it's our kitchen. So I'm limited as to the space I have here because I have this bottom row of 2x6s, and then we have our electric cord going to the outlet for our fridge right here. So 12 inches is just about the biggest I can get. So what I did is I measured up from the tub about 20 inches. And so here's my mark here. That's gonna give me 5 subway tiles because each one is about 4 inches, and I'm using a 1/16 of an inch grout line. So it's not really adding that much. And I left a little bit of room where I measured up from because you want a gap at the bottom. You don't want your tile sitting directly on the top of the tub. So I measured starting up maybe 1/4 of an inch or so, measured up my 20 inches. And so this is where the bottom of my niche is gonna be. And then I measured down from that 1.5 inches because that's gonna be the width of my 2x4 that I'm putting in here to support the bottom of my niche going across. Then I've got a 1/4 inch for my hardy backer board. Let me zoom in so you guys can see. So I've got a 1/4 inch for my hardy backer board, 1/4 inch for my tile, and then I have a little bit extra for what's called Mercy, or just for the cement and all that stuff. It gives me a little bit of wiggle room to play with. So this right here is where I'm actually going to be cutting this 2x4 to put in my new 2x4, which is the bottom of my niche. So I measured how big this was. I believe it was 2¼ inches, but I could be wrong. I'm just trying to remember that off the top of my head. But I measured this distance and then took it up here. And from my 20-inch mark, I measured up 12 inches for the back of my niche, because that's how tall my tile is. Then I've got the same 2¼ or 2½ inches here. So I've got the 2x4 plus the hardy backer board, plus the tile, plus a little bit of Mercy. So that is just under where these 2x6s are. So I really can't go much difference than that, because if I were to do a whole nother tile down here, I'd be running into this electrical line, and I really don't want to have to move that. So I'm just going to come up here, and this is still going to give me a good size niche. I mean, 12 inches, that's a pretty good size. I don't have shampoo bottles that are taller than 12 inches, so I'm going to go with that. So now is the scary part, because I get to cut this 2x4. For this last bit here and the last little bit on the top, I'm switching to a tool I know more about. So this is an oscillating multi-tool, so you can put a bunch of different attachments on top, and this is just the cutting blade I have on here. And this one I do have a lot of experience with because I've used it for trim, for cutting molding and things like that. So I'm gonna try and see if I can just get this last little bump here with this tool, and then same on the top, I've got a little bump there as well. Drill a pilot hole in here for my screw. To get about here, I'm going to twist my wood a little bit so that we've got a little bit of an angle in the back. Want to do is create a little bit of an angle front to back. Not so much that my shampoo's gonna fall off, but so that the water will. So let me get my pilot hole down in the back. Do the same thing, but I am again gonna tilt it just a little bit while I screw this in. So now I'm going to use my level, which I've still forgotten in the garage, and get this level so I can screw in the two sides. And there we go. Sorry if that video was a little awkward. It's really hard to stand in a bathtub, and I enlisted the help of my daughter because I just couldn't do that top piece on my own and get it level. But there it is, and it's totally level. Here is the finished little niche. So I did those two pieces, top and the bottom, and then I came back and I measured the length of the whole wall and found the midpoint. My midpoint is not actually this stud. I was kind of hoping it was, but it's not. It's about there. So I decided to make my niche a little bit smaller, but center it on my wall. So now the actual size of my niche is going to be this here. And then this piece I put there as added support, and same with this one. Just some added support there from removing that one beam. So that is the finished niche. Now it's actually measuring on the inside about 13 and a quarter inches, and then it's 22 and a half inches across. So I think I'm going to end up putting 1/2 inch cement board on the top and the bottom, and then doing 1/4 inch on either of the sides so I don't lose a lot of space. And that should make up the difference there. I'm glad I allowed myself a little bit of extra wiggle room, because again, I'd rather go a little big than be short, because you can't really fix it if you're too short. So yeah, so my next step then will be to put up this cement board, but I think I need to wait till my husband gets home for that one, because I don't think I can do that, like I said, on my own, because they weigh like 30 pounds. And plus I want him to take a look at my handiwork and just put his little stamp of approval on it. I did use some different screws to connect these little supports. I found that those 3-inch wood screws just weren't cutting it, because I broke a couple. You can see here I broke a couple screws, and I broke my drill bit, so I'm not happy with that. Part of it though is because this is kiln dried 2x4, because we don't want a wet 2x4 in the wall. So These ones are a little bit stronger and they're dry and they're breaking my bits. So what I did instead is I went in my garage and I grabbed my trusty 2-inch deck screws. These are so sturdy, you don't have to pre-drill. It's really good if you do pre-drill, but I didn't. And I did have a tiny bit of my wood splitting, but I'm not worried about it because again, that cement backer board is going on it and they're actually not really structural. I mean, they're just like added support because this beam there and that beam is what is like spreading the load on the beams coming down. So I'm not too worried about it. They aren't major splitting, so it's not a big deal. But anyways, that's how it stands right now. So now we gotta get the cement backer board on there, and then I need to tear out my window frame and this drywall here because we're gonna end up replacing this whole wall and putting some insulation behind it because I really don't think there's anything left, if there was anything at all, because this bathroom is one of the coldest and hottest places. So we're gonna fix that. But yeah, that's how it's looking.